Welcome back, story voyeurs. Tonight, we're pulling back the velvet curtains on Hollywood, venturing into the hidden boudoirs and whispered secrets of the elite. This isn't your typical celebrity gossip, darlings. This is a true confession, entrusted to me by an anonymous woman, a woman who tasted the intoxicating highs and devastating lows of desire in the City of Angels. Get ready to be seduced by Ashley's story, a tale dripping with forbidden longing, illicit encounters, and a marriage that burned hot, then turned to ice. We're talking stolen kisses under the spotlight, bedroom betrayals behind closed doors, and a woman's desperate quest to reclaim her own pleasure. This is a story that will make you question everything you think you know about love, lust, and the price of ambition in a world obsessed with appearances. But before we unlock the secrets of Ashley's world, there's a little favor I need to ask. This channel thrives on your discretion and enthusiasm. If you're craving this intimate, no-holds-barred story and want to see more tantalizing true accounts like this, please indulge us for a moment. Slide that finger over to the subscribe button, give this video a little love with a like, and share it with anyone who appreciates a story that's a little bit naughty and a whole lot real. Your support, it's essential. Now, are you ready to taste the forbidden fruit of Hollywood desire? Let's unwrap Ashley's story. Sunset Boulevard shimmered, a golden artery pulsing with the dreams and desires of Los Angeles. For Ashley Sterling, however, the golden light felt more like a gilded cage. From the sprawling balcony of their Beverly Hills mansion, the city sprawled beneath her, a glittering tapestry of ambition and excess. She should be on top of the world, the envy of every woman in Hollywood. After all, she was married to Ryan Sterling, the heartthrob actor whose face graced magazine covers and whose name sent teenage girls into frenzies. Their wedding had been a fairy tale splashed across every entertainment news outlet. A lavish affair at a vineyard in Napa Valley, Ashley in a Vera Wang gown, Ryan looking devastatingly handsome in his Tom Ford suit. Hollywood royalty, the tabloids had proclaimed. And in the glossy photos, they certainly looked the part. The successful, independent businesswoman and the charismatic, celebrated actor, a power couple for the modern age. But behind the facade of red carpets and perfect smiles, Ashley lived a life of quiet desperation. At 30, she was in her prime, a sharp, driven woman who had built her own empire, a chain of chic restaurants that were the talk of the town. She was beautiful, too, in a way that turned heads without trying. Her honey blonde hair cascaded down her shoulders, framing a face with high cheekbones, full lips often painted a bold crimson, and eyes that, despite their usual sparkle, held a growing undercurrent of melancholy. Ryan, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of activity, a perpetual motion machine fueled by ambition and the relentless demands of his career. He was constantly on set, filming in exotic locations, jetting off for press junkets in far-flung corners of the globe. His life was a dizzying schedule of premieres, parties, and photo shoots, a whirlwind that rarely touched down in their opulent home. Ashley understood the demands of his profession, or at least she tried to. She knew fame came with a price, a sacrifice of normalcy and personal time. But understanding didn't fill the gaping hole in her heart, the emptiness that echoed in the vast, silent rooms of their mansion after Ryan had packed his designer luggage and kissed her goodbye with a distracted air. Their physical intimacy, once a passionate inferno that had drawn them together, had dwindled to embers, then to almost nothing at all. When Ryan was home, which was becoming increasingly rare, he was often exhausted, jet-lagged, or preoccupied with scripts and calls. Their bed, a king-sized expanse draped in Egyptian cotton, felt more like a cold, lonely island than a haven of intimacy. Nights were the hardest. Ashley would lie awake, the city lights painting patterns on her ceiling, the silence amplifying her loneliness. She yearned for the simple comfort of a warm embrace, the intimacy of whispered conversations, the thrill of passionate touch. She craved the feeling of being truly desired, not just as Ryan Sterling's wife, but as Ashley, the woman beneath the designer clothes and successful persona. She tried to talk to Ryan, of course. In stolen moments between his packed schedule, she'd attempt to express her feelings, her longing for connection, her growing sense of isolation. But her words seemed to bounce off him, lost in the echo chamber of his own self-absorption. "Honey, it's just work," he'd say, his voice laced with a weary impatience. "You know how it is. This is what I do. It's temporary. Things will slow down." But things never slowed down. There was always another project, another role, another opportunity to chase. And Ashley, in her gilded cage, felt increasingly like a beautiful accessory to his glamorous life, rather than a partner, a lover, a wife. It wasn't just the lack of physical intimacy, it was the emotional distance that truly gnawed at her. Ryan seemed to inhabit a different world, a world of flashing lights and adoring fans, a world that had little room for her quiet needs and desires. She felt like she was watching him from behind a glass wall, admiring the spectacle but unable to truly connect, to touch, to feel the warmth of his presence in her own life. And then there was Martha, Ryan's mother. A woman who, despite living in sun-drenched California for decades, clung fiercely to old-fashioned values and a disapproving gaze that seemed to follow Ashley everywhere. Martha lived in the guest house on their property, a constant, silent judge of Ashley's modern lifestyle, her independent spirit and her scandalously short dresses. Martha, with her tight lips and pursed disapproval, represented another layer of pressure, another source of Ashley's growing discontent. She was a constant reminder of the traditional expectations of marriage, expectations that Ashley, in her modern, independent world, felt suffocated by. So Ashley lived a life of contradictions. Publicly she was envied, admired, the picture of success and marital bliss. Privately she was starved of affection, emotionally neglected and increasingly restless. The golden handcuffs of her marriage were starting to chafe, and a dangerous question began to simmer beneath the surface of her carefully constructed composure. How much longer could she endure a marriage that was beautiful on the outside, but hollow and desperately unsatisfying on the inside? The glittering lights of Hollywood seemed to mock her, promising a world of excitement and passion, while her own life felt increasingly like a carefully staged, yet utterly unfulfilling, performance. Jealousy was a venom, hot and corrosive, coursing through Ashley's veins. She stood frozen on the periphery of the soundstage, the cavernous space buzzing with controlled chaos. The air thrummed with the low hum of generators, the hushed whispers of the crew, and the sharp, clipped commands of the director. But Ashley's senses were laser-focused on one thing, one scene unfolding under the harsh glare of the studio lights: Ryan and Lana. They were filming a love scene, a pivotal moment in the romantic drama that was currently consuming Ryan's life, and increasingly consuming their marriage. Ashley had told herself she was just curious, wanting to see Ryan in his element, to understand the world that kept him away from her so often. But deep down, a knot of unease had tightened in her stomach, a premonition that something was shifting, something was slipping away. And now, watching them, her premonition felt sickeningly real. The scene was raw, intimate, almost disturbingly authentic. Ryan, usually so reserved, so guarded, was completely unguarded with Lana. His eyes, usually distant and preoccupied when they were together, were locked on hers, filled with an intensity that made Ashley's breath catch in her throat. Lana, a rising starlet with a mane of fiery red hair and a smoldering gaze, was equally captivating. She leaned into Ryan, her body molding against his with a familiarity that sent a jolt of ice through Ashley's heart. The director yelled, "Action!" and the world around them seemed to fade away. Ryan's hands cupped Lana's face, his thumbs tracing the delicate curve of her jawline. He spoke lines of passionate dialogue, words that Ashley had never heard him utter to her, words that dripped with longing and desire. Then he kissed her. It wasn't a chaste movie star peck. It was a deep, lingering kiss, a kiss that spoke of shared secrets and unspoken yearnings. Ashley watched, transfixed and horrified, as their lips parted and Ryan dipped his head, his mouth trailing down Lana's neck, eliciting a soft moan from the actress that echoed unnervingly in the otherwise hushed studio. Ashley's fists clenched at her sides, nails digging into her palms. Her breath hitched in her throat, a painful lump forming in her chest. It was just acting, she told herself desperately. It was their job. But the raw emotion, the palpable chemistry between them, felt too real, too intimate to be simply a performance. A wave of nausea washed over her. She felt like she'd been punched in the gut, the air knocked out of her lungs. Jealousy, a green-eyed monster she had never truly encountered before, clawed at her insides, a searing, agonizing pain that threatened to consume her. She couldn't watch anymore. Turning abruptly, Ashley fled the soundstage, the image of Ryan and Lana's entwined bodies seared into her mind. She stumbled blindly through the maze of cables and equipment, the artificial world of the studio suddenly feeling suffocating and unreal. Back in her car, parked in the vast studio lot, Ashley sat trembling, the engine idling, the air conditioning blasting cold air against her burning cheeks. The venom of jealousy still raged within her, mixing with a potent cocktail of loneliness and sexual frustration. The scene she had witnessed had not only ignited her jealousy, but it had also thrown into stark relief the gaping void in her own marriage, the barren landscape of their physical intimacy. Driven by a reckless impulse, a desperate need to reclaim some sense of agency over her own desire, Ashley made a decision. She wasn't going to go home to their empty mansion and stew in her jealousy and loneliness. She was going to take control, to find some release, some fleeting moment of connection, even if it was fleeting and meaningless. She drove to a bar she knew in West Hollywood, a dimly lit, upscale establishment known for its anonymity and its clientele seeking discreet encounters. The air inside was thick with the scent of expensive liquor and hushed conversations. The low hum of jazz music pulsed through the room, a seductive, melancholic rhythm that mirrored the turmoil in her own heart. Ashley ordered a strong martini, the icy chill a welcome contrast to the fire still burning within her. She scanned the room, her eyes lingering on the faces of the men at the bar. There were businessmen in tailored suits, artists with tousled hair and intense gazes, and a scattering of younger men, their eyes hungry and appraising. She wasn't looking for love or even conversation. She was looking for a release, a temporary escape from the suffocating emptiness of her marriage. She was looking for someone to remind her that she was still desirable, still capable of feeling desire. A man at the end of the bar caught her eye. He was leaning against the polished wood, nursing a drink, his gaze sweeping across the room with a practiced ease. He was attractive in a smooth, confident way, with dark hair slicked back and eyes that held a hint of knowing amusement. He noticed her looking and offered a slow, deliberate smile. Ashley held his gaze, a silent invitation passing between them. He raised his glass in a silent toast, then detached himself from the bar and moved towards her. "Rough day?" he asked, his voice smooth and low as he settled onto the stool beside her. Ashley met his eyes, her own gaze direct and unwavering. "You could say that," she replied, her voice husky, a hint of defiance lacing her words. "Maybe I can help you make it better," he suggested, his smile widening, a spark of anticipation in his eyes. Ashley took a long sip of her martini, the alcohol burning a path down her throat, loosening the tight knot of tension in her shoulders. "Maybe you can," she murmured, her voice barely audible above the music, a dangerous glint flickering in her eyes. The night unfolded with a swift, almost predatory efficiency. His name was Daniel. He was charming, practiced in the art of seduction, his words and touch designed to elicit a specific response. They talked little, drank more, the alcohol fueling a reckless abandon that Ashley hadn't felt in years. Soon they were in a taxi, the city lights blurring past the window, the silence between them thick with unspoken intent. They arrived at a sleek, anonymous hotel, the kind of place where secrets were kept and desires were indulged without judgment. In the dimly lit hotel room, the air heavy with the scent of unfamiliar cologne and the sterile anonymity of a transient space, Ashley found herself naked in Daniel's arms. His touch was skillful, practiced, eliciting a purely physical response from her body. He knew how to touch, how to tease, how to bring her to the edge of pleasure. But as the physical sensations intensified, a hollow ache began to grow in her chest. Even as her body responded, her mind remained detached, a silent observer watching a scene unfold that felt strangely disconnected from her true self. She went through the motions, mimicking the sounds of pleasure, trying to lose herself in the physical sensations. But it was like trying to fill a bottomless pit. The physical release was there, fleeting and temporary, but it didn't touch the deeper emptiness inside her. It didn't soothe the ache of loneliness, didn't erase the image of Ryan and Lana entwined on the soundstage. When it was over, and Daniel lay beside her, breathing heavily, Ashley felt nothing but a profound sense of disappointment. The release she had sought had been purely physical, devoid of any real connection, any genuine emotion. It was like eating a beautifully plated meal that tasted of nothing at all. She slipped out of bed, the cold hotel room air raising goosebumps on her skin. She looked back at Daniel, his face relaxed in sleep, utterly indifferent to her presence. She felt a pang of something akin to pity both for him and for herself. This was all it was, a transaction, a fleeting exchange of bodies in the dark, leaving behind only a lingering sense of emptiness and a deeper understanding of the chasm that had opened up in her own life. Back in the bar downstairs, waiting for a taxi, Ashley felt even more desolate than before. The drink she ordered tasted bitter, the music sounded tinny and hollow. The faces around her, once promising, now seemed predatory and sad. She had sought solace in a stranger's arms, hoping to quell the storm raging within her, but she had only found a temporary distraction, a fleeting illusion of intimacy that had ultimately left her feeling even more alone. The jealousy still simmered, the loneliness still ached, and the emptiness, amplified by the hollow encounter, now felt vast and insurmountable. The one-night stand, meant to be a rebellious act of self-assertion, had instead become a stark reminder of everything she was missing, everything she desperately craved, and everything that was slipping away from her grasp. The legal papers were crisp and cold in Ashley's hands, a stark white testament to the official end of her fairy tale. Irreconcilable differences, the document stated, a bland, bureaucratic phrase that couldn't begin to capture the emotional wreckage of her marriage to Ryan. She was divorced officially, irrevocably. And she was pregnant, alone, and facing a future that looked vastly different from the glittering Hollywood dream she had once envisioned. The weeks that followed were a blur of exhaustion, legal consultations, and the slow, painful process of disentangling her life from Ryan's. She moved out of the Beverly Hills mansion, finding a smaller, more intimate home nestled in the Hollywood Hills, a place that felt more like a sanctuary than a stage set. Her pregnancy progressed, a constant, undeniable reminder of the life growing within her, a life conceived in a marriage that had crumbled to dust. The initial shock and heartbreak gave way to a quiet resolve. She would be a single mother. It wasn't the future she had planned, but it was her reality, and she would face it with the same strength and determination that had built her restaurant empire. She threw herself into work, expanding her business, opening new locations, channeling her energy and focus into something she could control, something that gave her a sense of purpose beyond the wreckage of her personal life. Her restaurants thrived, becoming even more popular, a testament to her resilience and drive. But beneath the surface of her professional success, a deep loneliness still lingered. The nights were quiet, the silence in her new home a stark contrast to the bustling energy of her restaurants. She missed the simple companionship of another adult, the warmth of a shared bed, the intimacy of human touch. She wasn't actively looking for a relationship, not yet. The wounds from her marriage were still too raw, the betrayal too fresh. But life, in its unpredictable way, had other plans. It happened at the opening of her newest restaurant, a chic, Art Deco space in downtown LA. The event was packed, a swirling vortex of celebrities, socialites, and food critics, all eager to experience the latest offering from Ashley Sterling. She was circulating through the crowd, greeting guests, managing staff, her usual effortless grace and charm on full display when she saw him. He stood near the bar, a quiet observer amidst the swirling energy, his presence radiating a calm confidence that drew her eye. He was tall, with salt and pepper hair, a chiseled jawline, and eyes that held a depth of intelligence and warmth. He wasn't conventionally handsome in the Hollywood heartthrob mold, but there was an undeniable magnetism about him, a quiet strength that resonated with her. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and a flicker of something, recognition, curiosity, attraction, sparked between them. He offered a slow, appreciative smile, and Ashley found herself smiling back, a genuine, unguarded smile that she hadn't realized she was capable of anymore. He approached her, his movements fluid and confident. "Ashley Sterling," he said, his voice a low, resonant baritone that sent a pleasant shiver down her spine. "I'm Michael Davies. I've been wanting to meet the woman behind this culinary empire for a while now." They talked for hours that night, oblivious to the bustling party around them. Michael was a venture capitalist, successful, self-made, and refreshingly down-to-earth. He was intelligent, witty, and genuinely interested in her work, in her life beyond the superficial glamour of Hollywood. He wasn't intimidated by her success, nor was he seeking to exploit her fame. He truly saw her, as a woman, a businesswoman, a complex and fascinating individual. And he was captivated. Over the next few weeks, they began to see each other regularly. Lunches turned into dinners into late-night conversations that stretched into the early hours of the morning. Michael was a breath of fresh air, a grounding presence in her chaotic life. He was supportive, understanding, and incredibly attentive. He listened to her, truly listened to her frustrations, her fears, her hopes for the future. He didn't offer platitudes or empty reassurances. He offered empathy, respect, and a quiet strength that made her feel safe and understood. And then there was the physical chemistry. It was undeniable, electric, a slow burn that ignited with each stolen glance, each accidental touch. Unlike the hollow transactional encounter with Daniel, the attraction to Michael was deep, visceral, and emotionally charged. Their first kiss was in the dimly lit corner of her restaurant, after everyone else had left, the city lights twinkling through the panoramic windows. It was tentative at first, a soft exploration of lips and breath, then it deepened, becoming more urgent, more demanding, a silent promise of desires yet to be explored. When they finally made love, it was unlike anything Ashley had experienced before. It wasn't just physical release, it was a merging of souls, a passionate dance of bodies and emotions, a rediscovery of her own sensuality that had been dormant for too long. Michael was tender, passionate, and incredibly attuned to her needs and desires. He explored her body with a reverence that made her feel cherished, adored. He wasn't just seeking his own pleasure, he was seeking hers, wanting to unlock every hidden curve, every secret pleasure point. Their nights together became a revelation, a journey of sensual exploration that transcended the purely physical. They talked, they laughed, they explored each other's bodies with a playful curiosity and a deep, simmering passion. Ashley discovered a side of herself she hadn't known existed, a woman capable of intense desire, uninhibited pleasure, and a deep, soul-stirring connection. With Michael, sex wasn't just sex. It was intimacy, vulnerability, a language spoken in touches and whispers, in shared breaths and synchronized movements. It was a celebration of her body, her desires, her sexuality, a reclaiming of a part of herself that had been neglected and suppressed for too long. In Michael's arms, Ashley found not just physical satisfaction, but a sense of emotional fulfillment, a feeling of being truly seen, truly desired, truly loved. He awakened her senses, ignited her passions, and showed her that even after heartbreak and disappointment, desire could bloom again, stronger and more vibrant than ever before. She was a single mother, yes, but she was also a woman rediscovering her own power, her own sensuality, and her own capacity for a love that was both passionate and deeply fulfilling. The emptiness that had haunted her for so long began to recede, replaced by a warmth, a fullness, and a growing sense of hope for a future that, for the first time in a long time, felt bright and full of promise. The paparazzi flashbulbs exploded, momentarily blinding Ashley as she stepped out of her car, Michael's hand warm and reassuring on the small of her back. It was another restaurant opening, another celebration of her continued success, but tonight the spotlight felt different, heavier, tainted with an unwelcome presence. Ryan was there. She hadn't seen him in months, not since the divorce had been finalized, not since she had begun to build a new life, a life that finally felt authentic and joyful. But here he was, leaning against the velvet rope, a practiced, casual pose that couldn't quite mask the tension radiating from him. His eyes, usually a cool, detached blue, were dark with an emotion Ashley couldn't quite decipher, anger, resentment, or something else, something unsettlingly possessive. He pushed off the rope as she approached, his movements deliberate, almost predatory. "Ashley," he said, his voice a low growl, ignoring Michael completely. "We need to talk." Ashley stiffened, Michael's hand tightening slightly on her back, a silent question in his touch. "Ryan," she replied, her voice cool and controlled, "there's nothing to talk about." "Don't be ridiculous," he snapped, his eyes flicking dismissively towards Michael. "This is about us. About our unfinished business." "There is no us anymore, Ryan," Ashley said, her voice firm, unwavering. "And our business is finished. Legally and emotionally." Michael stepped forward, his presence a quiet, solid wall between Ashley and her ex-husband. "Is there a problem here, Ashley?" he asked, his voice calm but with an undercurrent of steel. Ryan finally acknowledged Michael, his gaze appraising, dismissive. "And you are?" he sneered, his tone dripping with condescension. "Michael Davies," Michael replied, extending his hand, his grip firm and unwavering. "Ashley's partner." Ryan ignored Michael's hand, his eyes fixed on Ashley, his expression hardening. "Partner? Is that what we're calling it now? A rebound fling to make yourself feel better?" Ashley's patience snapped. "This is none of your business, Ryan. Please leave. You're ruining my evening." "Your evening?" he scoffed. "What about our life, Ashley? The life we built together? You're just going to throw it all away for this?" He gestured vaguely at Michael, his lip curling in disdain. "Our life," Ashley repeated, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "Ryan, you were never present in our life. You were too busy chasing fame and other things." The accusation hung in the air, unspoken but heavy with meaning. Ryan's face flushed, a muscle twitching in his jaw. "Don't start with that again, Ashley. You know how things are in this business. It's demanding, it's an excuse," Ashley interrupted, her voice rising slightly, attracting the attention of a few nearby guests. "It was always an excuse, Ryan. For your absence, for your neglect, for your infidelity." The word hung in the air, a sharp, pointed accusation that silenced Ryan momentarily. He glanced around, realizing they were drawing attention, his carefully constructed public persona threatened. He lowered his voice, his tone shifting from aggressive to pleading. "Ashley, please. Can we talk about this somewhere private? Just the two of us?" For old time's sake. There are no old times to go back to, Ryan, Ashley said, her voice cold, final. And I have nothing to say to you in private or in public. It's over. Move on. She turned away from him, taking Michael's arm, her body trembling slightly despite her outward composure. Michael squeezed her hand reassuringly, his gaze unwavering as he led her into the restaurant, leaving Ryan standing alone on the red carpet, his face a mask of thwarted anger and resentment. But Ryan wasn't one to give up easily. His ego, bruised and battered, wouldn't allow it. He had been rejected, publicly, by the woman he had once considered his possession. And that, for Ryan Sterling, was an intolerable blow. Over the next few weeks, he became a persistent shadow in Ashley's life, a ghost from her past refusing to stay buried. He started showing up at her restaurants, sending her flowers, leaving messages on her phone, all variations of the same theme: we belong together. You made a mistake leaving me. Come back to me. He even tried to appeal to her emotionally, playing the wounded, repentant ex-husband. I miss you, Ashley, he'd say, his voice thick with manufactured emotion. I made mistakes, I know. But I've changed. I can be the man you deserve. Just give me another chance. Ashley remained unmoved, her resolve hardened by his persistent harassment. She had moved on, found happiness, and she wasn't about to let Ryan Sterling and his bruised ego and desperate attempts at reconciliation derail her new life. She ignored his calls, returned his flowers unopened, and instructed her staff to refuse him entry to her restaurants. But Ryan's persistence escalated, turning from annoying to unsettling. He started showing up at her home, unannounced, late at night, banging on her door, demanding to be let in. He even tried to use the paparazzi, staging chance encounters with Ashley, hoping to create a public narrative of reconciliation, to pressure her into taking him back. The constant intrusion, the relentless pressure, began to wear on Ashley. She felt harassed, violated, her newfound peace threatened by Ryan's increasingly desperate and erratic behavior. Michael, witnessing Ashley's growing distress, stepped in, his protective instincts kicking into high gear. He confronted Ryan directly, a private, tense meeting in Michael's office, away from the prying eyes of the public. Ryan, Michael said, his voice calm but firm, this has to stop. You're harassing Ashley. You're disrupting her life. It's over. You need to accept that and move on. Ryan scoffed, his arrogance returning, fueled by a sense of entitlement and wounded pride. You don't understand, Davies. Ashley and I have a history. A connection. What you have is just temporary. What we have is real, Ryan, Michael countered, his gaze unwavering. And it's none of your concern. Ashley has made her choice. And she's chosen me. You need to respect that. Chosen you? Ryan sneered. She's just using you, Davies. To get back at me. To make herself feel better. She doesn't really love you. Michael leaned forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You're wrong, Ryan. She does love me. And I love her. And if you continue to harass her, to disrupt her life, I will make sure you regret it. Is that clear? The threat, unspoken but palpable, hung in the air. Ryan, for the first time, seemed to realize that Michael wasn't just some temporary fling, some convenient placeholder. He was a force to be reckoned with, a man who wouldn't back down, a man who was fiercely protective of Ashley. Ryan finally backed down, his bravado faltering, replaced by a grudging, resentful acceptance. He stopped showing up, stopped calling, stopped trying to force his way back into Ashley's life. Ashley, watching him retreat, felt a surge of relief, mixed with a lingering sadness. It was over, truly over. The chapter of her life with Ryan Sterling was finally closed, sealed shut by his own arrogance and possessiveness. She turned to Michael, his strong arms wrapping around her, his presence a comforting anchor in the storm of her emotions. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with gratitude. Always, he murmured back, his lips brushing against her hair. I'm not going anywhere, Ashley. You're safe with me. And in his arms, in his love, Ashley finally felt safe, truly safe, to embrace her new life, her new love, her new, passionate and utterly fulfilling future. Ryan Sterling, the ghost from her past, had finally been exorcised, leaving her free to build a future filled with genuine happiness, genuine desire, and a love that was finally, irrevocably hers. The Hollywood hills shimmered in the twilight, the city lights twinkling below like a scattered constellation. Inside Ashley's home, nestled amongst the lush greenery, a different kind of luminescence filled the air, the warm glow of contentment, the soft murmur of laughter, the quiet hum of happiness. Ashley leaned against Michael, his arm draped possessively around her shoulders, as they watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of fiery orange and soft lavender. Her baby, a healthy, vibrant girl named Lily, slept peacefully in her crib nearby, her tiny chest rising and falling in a rhythmic lullaby of innocence. Life with Michael was a symphony of small joys and profound connections. It wasn't the whirlwind of glamour and paparazzi flashes she had experienced with Ryan, but something deeper, something more authentic and infinitely more satisfying. It was the quiet intimacy of shared breakfasts on the patio, the easy banter during evening walks in the hills, the passionate nights that left her breathless and utterly fulfilled. With Michael, Ashley had discovered a love that was both grounding and exhilarating. He was her rock, her confidant, her passionate lover, and now the loving father figure to her daughter. He embraced Lily with an open heart, his tenderness and affection for the baby melting away any lingering doubts Ashley might have had about their future. Their nights were a testament to their deep connection, a sensual exploration that continued to deepen with each passing month. Michael knew her body intimately, understood her desires, and delighted in pleasuring her. Their lovemaking was a dance of passion and tenderness, a celebration of their bodies and their souls intertwined. Ashley had finally found the sexual fulfillment she had craved for so long, a fulfillment that went beyond the purely physical, encompassing emotional intimacy, vulnerability, and a deep sense of being cherished and desired. In Michael's arms she felt truly alive, truly herself, a woman finally free to embrace her desires without guilt or reservation. Meanwhile, Ryan's world continued to crumble. His career, once soaring, began a slow, inexorable descent. The scandal of his public meltdown, his desperate attempts to win Ashley back, and his increasingly erratic behavior had tarnished his golden image. Movie roles became scarce, magazine covers disappeared, and the adoring fans began to dwindle. He tried to recapture his former glory, to reinvent himself, but the magic was gone. His attempts at charm now seemed desperate, his charisma forced, his star power dimmed by the weight of his own self-inflicted wounds. His personal life was no less chaotic. He drifted through a series of fleeting relationships, each one a pale imitation of what he had lost with Ashley. He searched for solace in the arms of other women, hoping to recapture the passion and connection he had so carelessly thrown away, but found only fleeting moments of physical release, devoid of any real emotional depth. He saw Ashley occasionally in the tabloids, on social media, always radiant, always happy, always with Michael and Lily, a picture of domestic bliss that twisted like a knife in his gut. The green-eyed monster of jealousy gnawed at him, a constant, agonizing reminder of what he had lost. He tried to convince himself that Ashley was faking it, that her happiness was a facade, a carefully constructed performance to make him jealous. But deep down he knew the truth. Ashley had moved on, found genuine happiness, and he was left behind, stranded in the wasteland of his own making. One evening, drowning his sorrows in a dimly lit bar in Hollywood, Ryan saw a news report flickering on the television screen above the bar. It was Ashley and Michael at a charity gala, looking radiant and deeply in love. Ashley was pregnant again, glowing with health and happiness, Michael's hand resting protectively on her growing belly. A wave of bitterness washed over Ryan, so potent it almost choked him. He had thrown away his chance at happiness, at family, at real love, for the fleeting illusion of fame and the empty pursuit of fleeting pleasures. And now, Ashley was living the life he could have had, the life he had so carelessly rejected. He watched the news report, his glass of whiskey trembling in his hand as Ashley smiled at Michael, her eyes shining with love and contentment. In that moment, the full weight of his loss crashed down on him, crushing him with the realization of his own profound and irreversible mistake. He had been so arrogant, so entitled, so convinced of his own desirability, that he had believed Ashley would always be there, waiting for him, forgiving him, taking him back whenever he deigned to return. He had never truly appreciated her, never truly valued her, until she was gone, irrevocably, forever. Now he was left with nothing but regret, a gnawing emptiness that echoed the void in his own heart. He had chased fame and fleeting pleasures, only to find himself alone, hollow, and utterly unfulfilled. Ashley, the woman he had discarded, had found her own happiness, her own fulfillment, and had built a life that was everything he had lost and could never reclaim. As Ashley and Michael continued to build their life together, their love deepening with each passing year, Ryan remained trapped in a cycle of regret and self-destruction, a cautionary tale of a man who had valued fame over love, ego over connection, and fleeting pleasures over lasting happiness. Ashley, looking back on her journey, felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had weathered the storm, emerged stronger and wiser, and found a love that was everything she had ever dreamed of. She had claimed her own happiness, her own desires, and had built a life that was truly, authentically hers. Her story became a quiet testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the power of female agency, and to the enduring truth that true happiness lies not in fleeting fame or superficial glamour, but in genuine connection, in passionate love, and in the courage to claim one's own desires and build a life that is both fulfilling and deeply, authentically your own. And in the end, it was Ashley, the woman who had dared to break free, who had truly won, leaving Ryan, the man who had failed to appreciate her, to wallow in the bitter wasteland of his own making, a prisoner of his own regrets and a haunting, inescapable loneliness.